Since we're talking about wheels,
Oh boy.
tell us about spoke tension. Tell us about spoke tension.
You know,
You guys,
you know what's funny? That was question number 2, actually.
yeah, right?
Yeah.
We want to know
really
about
Is
28
it real?
hole, 32 hole.
Yeah.
Are you guys tuning for different courses? What do you got? As much as you're allowed to share.
Yeah, no, that stuff is not like trade secret stuff, really. It's obviously, it's all knowledge out there that everybody has at their availability. But yes, we will play with spoke tension for sure. But there's always a point of diminishing return with that. That's one of those things. It's like you can get it, and everybody's different, and it depends on. There's so many factors that come into that it's like it's hard to just sit here and have a conversation about spoke tension. You have to have a conversation about the spokes themselves, the length that they are. Your ERD comes into effect, and who makes the spokes? What's the butting? What's your rim material? 28 hole or 32 hole, 2 cross, 3 cross. Obviously, we're not running radial, but all that stuff has an input and a factor. And then rider style. What terrain are you riding it on? What kind of bike is it on? Your tire. Like, I think that's what a lot of people forget about is there's a lot of conversations on spokes, rim material, compliance is the big word nowadays, and all that kind of stuff. And we have to remember that, I think I said it earlier, bicycle is the sum of all of its parts. Like, and all of those parts are inputs and are gonna give you different feedback no matter what. Carbon versus aluminum handlebars, like that's going to change how a bike feels. How a rider sets a suspension up is going to have an effect on how those wheels feel. What kind of tire are you running is going to have an effect on what those wheels feel like.
Frame flex.
Frame flexor compliance, casing, compound, tread pattern. Like if you just the wheel itself, like you have a tire, a rim, the spokes and the hub, like all together. So it's a bigger conversation in my mind than just spoke tension. What do you run for spoke tension? It's like, I tell you, I run 69 kgf and like you could go put it on anything. It's going to feel different on every one. Front wheel, rear wheel, left side, right side, brake side, non-brake side, all that kind of stuff. So to answer your question, yes, we do play with it and I guess modify it. But it's nothing crazy. Like we just back it off a little bit. We don't hand build all of our wheels. Fun fact, we get them all straight from E13, built by them. Saves us a ton of time. They're super reliable, but they are super tight. And because it makes sense because they're typically going on a general consumer's bike.
To be never touched again.
Never touched
forever.
again, right? So you have to consider the break-in period and then everything's settling in. And then by that time, like they're pretty good. So out of the box, like we're just basically getting them to the already broken in period. And then check them and just stay on top of that. So, we keep the brake side a little bit tighter than the non-brake side because of the braking forces. And then you're going to be, every ride is like different. And so we just basically back them down a little bit. Yes, you can go too loose. And the bigger thing, I think, that has a more influence on what you're feeling is your rim material. Size, width. We forgot about that even. Like just rim dimensions.
Well, like to go back to the 471 conversation, like there are guys who run the 471 at 25 mil or the 511 at 30 mil.
Yeah.
Because they say, oh, the wider one is stiffer and the 471 is a little skinnier. So it like flexes a little bit
is it
more.
a 2.9 or a 2.75?
Yeah.
The diameter of the wheel is going to have a characteristic on how much flex is into it.
And are you guys messing around with like front rear differences too? Like you might run a different rim front or rear, or run different like spoke tension or butting or something front or rear?
No, we try to keep like all the spokes are triple butted. Keep them. We do run. Recently, we've been trying different spokes in the front versus rear.
Triple butted for weight or for compliance?
Just compliance.
Okay.
Yeah. And a lot of this stuff is going into production with E13. So it's like finding out what works really well for us. And then that's being passed on to consumers, which is always like the ultimate goal. Not all of it or everything always will be good or translatable for customers, but 90% of it is. Like, if it's good for these guys, it will be good for you. I promise. Type of thing. A lot of people think like, well, they just do that for athletes, or they just do that because these guys are the gnarliest guys and they require it. It's like, yes, you're correct, but you will also benefit from this. Like, it's not going to be bad for you because it's under an athlete type of thing.
Well, and no one's harder on equipment than a beginner athlete using it incorrectly.
100%.
Right.
Like, it's almost hard sometimes. Like, Aaron's such a smooth rider, and I love that for my job. But sometimes it's hard to develop stuff. Like, he's had lots of prototype stuff and lots of development stuff and that he's had on his bike, and it's been on there for a very long time. It's like, yeah, man, sick. No issues. Nothing like that. Like, put it on Dakota's bike. He's like, I did 3 runs on it. It blew up.
Well, that's why you have him.
Yeah, exactly.